On the tribe's historical claims in this region and how the loss of recognition would affect tribal members in really practical ways. I should mention that we did extend an invitation to the Office of the Attorney General, hoping that they would also participate in tonight's panel. They sent an email saying that they received our invitation, but after repeated follow-up phone calls, even my irrepressible optimism was squelched, and I realized that they were saying no thank you by their silence. So they chose not to participate in this event tonight. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists for this evening, and then we'll get started. Starting with Mr. Mark Gould. That's right. He's the Principal Chief and the elected Chairman of the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape Tribal Nation. He has served as a tribal leader for about 40 years and was instrumental in reorganizing the tribal government from a 2-century-old church-based and clan-style leadership system into a constitutional democracy with a chief, a council, and a court. Chief Gould led the successful initiative to achieve state recognition for his tribe in the early 1980s. He was a guiding force in the establishment of the Confederation of Sovereign Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape Tribes, which is the intertribal union of the historically and genealogically interrelated tribal communities of Nanticoke and Lenape people in the Delaware Bay region. He's also served as chairman of the Confederation Council. Additionally, he is the founding tribal leader and a current board member of the Alliance of Colonial-Era Tribes, which is a treaty organization of tribal governments along the eastern and southern coast of the United States. Here to my left is Reverend Dr. John Norwood. He is the Principal Justice of the Tribal Supreme Court of the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape Tribal Nation, for which he's also served as a councilman for more than 10 years. He's the co-chair of the Task Force on Federal Acknowledgement of the National Congress of American Indians and the General Secretary of the Alliance of Colonial-Era Tribes. He's also the government liaison for the Confederation of Sovereign Nanticoke Lenape Tribes, which I described above. Dr. Norwood is the senior minister to the Nanticoke Lenape Tribal Christian Prayer Circle Ministry, and he's also served for more than 20 years as the pastor of Ujima Village Christian Church in Ewing, New Jersey, which is a non-tribal urban congregation. He has represented his tribe and confederation both nationally and internationally, and has written about and lectured on tribal history, culture, and current concerns. He also just returned from South Africa 2 weeks ago, after receiving his doctoral degree. And in the middle is Greg Werkheiser. He's a lawyer and a leadership educator. Mr. Werkheiser is the founding partner of Cultural Heritage Partners, PLLC, a cultural heritage law and policy firm that's based in Washington, D.C., and also has offices in Brussels. Mr. Werkheiser and his colleagues represent clients in the work primarily of historic preservation, from governments battling looters of priceless antiquities to tribes seeking to protect their cultures from assault here at home. He was the first attorney ever to win the New Jersey Governor's Award for Historic Preservation, which is particularly interesting because he's not a New Jersey attorney. Not sure how that happens. Very fitting with anyway. Mr. Werkheiser has enjoyed a parallel career as a social entrepreneur in education. He was named by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching as one of the nation's leading civics educators. He founded and has led some of the nation's top leadership development centers, including the Presidio Institute in San Francisco, the Center for Social Entrepreneurship at George Mason University, and youth programs for the Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership at the University of Virginia. Tonight, the order of the kind of progression of events is that we'll first have our panelists present, and then we'll have a chance for Q&A, and hopefully half of their time tonight will be question and answer with questions that you raise. So during the panel discussion, kind of keep track of your questions. And I know at least one professor here is giving extra credit if you get your question asked. So I don't know how aggressive the question time is going to be here as you try to get your questions in. But we're really anxious to have that be a lively and energetic time. So Dr. Norwood will begin. We'll give a little history of the tribe and also kind of give us a primer on state and federal recognition, kind of how that process works. followed by Mr. Werkheiser will give an overview of the case that the tribe is filing against the state at this point, and then Chief Gould, as the principal chief of the tribe, as it should be, will have the last word, particularly on how a loss of state tribal recognition would really affect the tribe itself. So please welcome our panelists tonight.
Good evening. I'd like to greet you in my language in a traditional fashion. Ta, Wangomamu Kamo. Deloense, Kelek, Takomok, Hake Yentiko, Lenni-Lenape. My name is Reverend John Horwood. I'm the Chief Justice and the